Welcome to Longterm. I'm Ty King, and this podcast where we have been discovering what recovery is, what's working, what's not working, how do we make a sustainable future, how do we benefit from whenever somebody goes through a successful recovery. Like, this has been a journey and an education. I was just talking to Jim before we started about how this is such a rabbit hole. If your only touchstone for recovery is television, movies, books, or just some sort of media, it does not match up to reality whenever you have a loved one that's actually in the throes of addiction or trying to recover, right? And so we're on the road. We are traveling today. So we're outside on the patio of a nice little coffee shop here. I am. Jim's in his home. It looks like he's got a really nice background. Kind of jealous of the setting right now. But I'm excited to talk to Jim Boad, who is an accomplished entrepreneur, and he's done some incredible things in real estate. This might not be something that you've ever thought about that ties into recovery, but the real estate game. And so I won't tease that too much and get right into it. Jim, thank you so much for being a guest today.
I'm glad I could be here.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. Okay, Jim. So entrepreneur, that's a word that people use for a lot of different things, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so how do you explain your version of entrepreneurship?
Means I'm willing to struggle to do my own thing. It's basically what it means to me. No, I don't mean it that way. Biggest thing to me about entrepreneurs are people that are just really willing to step out there and take that risk, kind of untether themselves from the safety of a job, which really jobs have become a lot less unsafe lately anyway, with automation and AI. I mean, there's people losing them left and right. But just somebody who's willing to jump in there and take that risk and invest in themselves. So
That's incredible. So did you get started right away? I mean, out of college, or is this a long journey that you went through before you actually jumped into entrepreneurship?
it was a very long, short journey at the same time. I joined the military. I joined the Army right out of high school, just because I didn't have a lot of opportunity in the town I lived in, which I'm back in now, creating opportunity, which is pretty fun and cool for me. But I didn't hate my town. It was just a small town, and there was just not much for me to be able to do here. And I was barely scraping through school as it was, so it's not like I had this world of opportunity for me. Um, and then out of the Army, I went to college for about a year and a half, and it just wasn't for me. Wasn't a school person, so I started my own business, and I started fix and flipping homes. And then it just kind of organically grew from there. I became a realtor and had a real estate team to support all of my fix and flips. And then ultimately I started building rentals. And then that kind of put me to where I am today.
Incredible. So you've been in this for a while, right? This has been a few years that you've been.
Since 2000 is when I started in real
Year
estate.
2000.
So, yeah,
25 years you've been in this.
absolutely.
That's pretty
Didn't
astonishing.
realize I'm that old.
Right. So I know, and I've seen you do other interviews, and people have talked about this, but I wanted to bring this up, of course, because we talk real estate, we talk about you started in the 2000s. So we know that there was the big boom, crash, whatever you want to call it, explosion in real estate in 2008, and you managed to avoid that somehow.
I was pretty blessed with some foresight, and one of the big things I promote with everybody is surrounding yourself with great people in the industry that don't do the same thing you do, and that helped me a lot. We didn't avoid it. We actually got to ride it more than anything, because I kind of saw what was coming, but I didn't know what to do specifically as an investor. So what I dug into was REOs, which is what meant real estate owned, and that meant when the bank would take a home back, it was called an REO. And I started building relationships with the banks before the collapse. And most people didn't understand what it was or do it. And then I was way ahead. So we started getting hundreds of listings from these banks that we got to sell as real estate agents. So it sustained us through that time. Financially, we did really well. It 100% burnt me out. I was literally doing 4 times the work for half the money. And it was just very processed. It wasn't what I became an entrepreneur to do, because I basically worked for a bank then, and I had to follow their rules and their guidelines and give them the reports that they wanted. But it got us through, and it allowed us to survive and actually thrive. We built a very big team throughout that time, and we were one of the few realtors and investors that really did well in the downturn. So
That's incredible. Yeah. Congratulations on that.
thank you.
Yeah. I think you switched to rentals at some point.
I did. my, my real estate story can be really long, so I really try to just condense
Sure.
it because
And
you start
and
getting
this is not a
into
real
it, it's
estate
fun.
podcast, but it's still interesting and to understand the story about how you got to what you're doing now.
Exactly. So I did take a break after we rocked the REOs for a while. Probably 2000, end of 2009. My wife and I kind of just stopped working. And let me tell you, you think you have enough money to retire sometimes, and I didn't. But we kind of stopped working almost until about 2014, and that's when I started reinvesting again. Because I did completely stop investing going kind of like mid 2007, beginning of 2007, right in that time frame. I completely stopped because I was just a fix and flipper. That's really all I did. But the market just stopped making sense to me. I didn't understand how can I buy this home for above market value and then sell it for more money in 2 weeks, a month, three months. I don't understand this. I can't move forward. Um, so that kind of changed. So we had that little break, and then in 2014 I started flipping again, but that was up in Washington. I started in Arizona, is where my real estate career started, and stayed up until about 2014. Um, and then about 2017 I started getting rentals again. I started building a rental pool. So
Yeah, great. So where does so at this point, I guess, is when recovery starts coming into the picture and you saw an opportunity.
what COVID kind of forced a change for me again as well. I've got to ride a couple of cool markets that I don't say cool because they were cool. They devastated people, but to be
Right.
able to make it through those things and overcome and come out the other side was pretty impressive to me. And but what happened was I was building my rental pool up, and when COVID hit, Washington State, one, is not super landlord friendly anyway, but we really imposed heavy restrictions. And it basically just gave carte blanche for someone who was a tenant to just not pay and have zero recourse. And really, still to this day, there's almost zero recourse for tenants that don't pay. But that's what really shifted it for me. I had about 20 rentals at the time, and almost none of them were paying. And I would call and say, "Hey, what can I help you with? Did you lose your job? Do you need some assistance? What can I do?" And they just said, "No, everything's fine. We just don't have to pay, and there's nothing you can do about it." And they weren't wrong. They were absolutely dead right. There was literally nothing I could do about it. My attorneys just said there hasn't been an eviction in months. There's nothing we can do. They're not giving evictions right now. You have two choices. You can move into the house or you can sell it. So, I just sitting there one night, doom scrolling after looking at all the red on my P&L sheet going, what am I going to do? I still have mortgage payments. I still have to pay utilities. I still have to do repairs when they call me. Like, well, how do I get out of this? And I ran across something about group homes. And I've always wanted to help. My background is I come from an alcoholic drug addict family. My friends, I personally have not been an alcoholic or a drug addict, but I've dealt with it pretty much my whole childhood and adult life. And I've always wanted to give back, but I never really knew how. And reading this about group homes, at first it was a little weird. It's like, group homes. I don't even really know what that means. But I started digging into it, and he had an online course. I ended up getting into the online course, and the pathway that I ended up choosing, because with group homes, there's a lot of different kinds. You can have sober living homes like I run. You can have elderly care. They have what they call adult daycares now, where like elderly people come to a home for the day and get to be there. You can help, kids phasing out of foster care. You can just do straight up group living homes where it's just affordable housing and multiple people share a house and pay for the room that they live in. So there's a lot of options with it. But it really pulled on my soul, the sober living. And once I started understanding that, one, I didn't have to be licensed because I only run unlicensed homes. So I don't have any specialty training or anything like that, because what I offer is a safe, clean environment for people, not recovery in the sense where I'm helping them get off drugs. They do have to come to me after they've been through a intensive recovery program, a 30 to 90-day program. So that's how I got to where I am. A late night doom scrolling, and I found a coaching program.
That's so interesting that it's still like you're giving back, you're doing good, but you're still making it profitable, and which is great. Yeah, and so that's the win-win scenario. I think what we're all looking for is to contribute to the world, but also make a living at it, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
and
And
so
and
we,
that's one of the cool things with this one. if you're looking at it just as a cash cow, you can be a slumlord anywhere. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so if you're just getting into this for the cash flow of it, it's going to be tough. You're probably not going to succeed unless you bring people in to run these, because they take time to run. You actually have to have compassion and care about the mission of this, because you can make it just a rotating bed system. You're not really helping anybody, and ultimately it's not going to work well for you. But but this is the most profitable business that I've ever run, and it's the business that has the most impact that I've ever run. So it's kind of amazing how you can get both of those, because a lot of times it's one or the other. I'm making a ton of money and I'm not doing anything for anybody but me,
Yeah,
or I'm doing so much amazing stuff that I'm literally not making money. I'm bleeding every month, and I don't
right.
even know how I'm going to keep helping people.
You
This
can
this
sleep better
bridges
now.
that, and it gives you both. So yeah,
So when you started, because I read that you had opened 14 of these houses over the past couple of years, which is that's a huge amount. Like one seems like a massive undertaking, but 14, like, are you still working with the team? Or are you doing this on your own? And I've got plenty of questions on how this operates.
absolutely. Yeah, I started with the team. Just coming from my background, I build teams. I mean, it's part of what I've done for 25 years now. So I knew where I was going to take this. As soon as I saw the meat and potatoes behind the curtain of this, it's like, this is it. I'm all in. I don't have a single regular rental anymore. I've actually got, it was 8, but now it's 12. I've got 12 new lots that I'm developing specifically to do this model in. And I build these homes a little bit different, because it's more about bedroom count and things like that, and bathroom count. And like, I don't make my homes with main bedroom and master bedrooms anymore. No one has their own privates in these homes that I'm building. So it's been amazing, and it definitely is with the team. But that's not where I think most people would start. Like, you literally can start this. One of the guys I learned from started this in his own home. He was a recovering a drug addict, and he decided that this was the way he was going to go. He lived in the master bedroom. He rented out the other rooms, and then he ended up having 3 homes after that, as he branched it out. But
That's amazing. So, okay, so process. Let's start with. So you said the guys come in when they're living there, they've got to go through an intensive sort of program. Are you partnered up with other programs to make sure that they're going through these programs, or is there a way to check to see if these guys have gone through these types of programs?
yes, the majority of what we do. So basically, I do help people open these homes, and we have a three-step process that we go through with people. And the first step is, it's your niche selection. So it's finding out what works in your area, because sober living doesn't work in every area. It works in most, though, because you could be in an elderly community area like Sun City, Arizona, where there's not really a lot of people that are looking for that type of home. That's a great place to go and open up an elderly care facility. But like most metro cities and even smaller towns, I live in a town of 10,000, and that's where I run all of my homes from. I'm able to run at this scale in a town of 10,000, 11,000 people. So imagine if I was up in Seattle, where it's a million or plus, or you're in a major metro area. They all need this so bad. It's such an underserved community, and most people just don't know that they can do this at this level and this easily by opening these homes. They think, I have to have licensing, and I have to have a degree, and I have to have all these things, and the bureaucracy and the red tape and zoning, and none of that is actually a problem once you know what you're doing. But I lost track of where I was going with that. So
So, getting the records of these guys before they go into the home themselves, is there a
yes.
way to tell if they've been through the program or not?
Yep. So that's what I was getting at with it, is when I'm doing my research, I reach out to all of the inpatient drug facilities around me. And that is the main place that I get the majority of my people from. And so they're normally calling me 1 to 2 weeks before they're getting out of their treatment. So they're calling saying, "Hey, do you guys have beds?" And we always have beds, because we're ever expanding. And if we don't, we partner with other sober living homes in our area, and we will refer each other people. So that is where the majority of my people come from. Some people come in just organically. They'll find us online or something and say, "Hey, I'm an alcoholic. I'm living alone." This was a recent one. I'm living alone, and I'm having a hard time with this, just because it's a struggle. I come home from work, I've got nothing to do, and all I want to do is drink. So he, moved into one of our homes, and now is thriving again. Hey, cool. I needed this. I needed to be around this and people in recovery with the same struggle as me. And so the majority come right out of treatment.
So for the structure on the inside, because I know that these guys need a lot of structure, they need, consistency and supervision. And I know here and lots of other places I've talked to, that where peer support is a really big thing. And it's really, really helpful for people to have somebody else that's already been through the situation. They can relate. So they help you through, hey, I came out of this, I can help you do this too. Um, so is there a structure for the guys? I'm sure there is, but I'm just curious what your approach is. When the guys live in the house, are they under some sort of supervision or some sort of rules or regulations they have to abide by?
Yes, we have quite a few rules. Everybody has to be actively working on their treatment. They have to be going to meetings. They have to be showing up and talking with their caseworkers or counselors or whatever level they're at and whatever program they went through. We do have a lot of rules in the house. We try to run them as democratically as we possibly can. And it's been very, very rare that we've had to impose things on our houses because normally they just organically, hey, I don't mind doing dishes, but I don't like cleaning the bathroom. I don't care about cleaning the bathroom, but I hate doing dishes. So it's just, these are all the things that we expect you guys to maintain. We don't care how you maintain them unless you make us. And then if they make us, hey, this week, Joe, you're doing floors, you're doing this, and then we'll build a schedule for everybody. But it's been very rare that we've had to do that because the people that come into these homes are normally really they're recovering. They're coming kind of from their rock bottom. They want purpose. They want to achieve. They want to take pride in their environment and their life at this point. So it's been good.
Yeah, that's amazing that you have such, the structure put in there, but it's sort of they sort of adjust themselves from what I'm hearing. Like like, hey, we're all going through the same situation, and we're all here to live and make something better for ourselves. Let's work this out so that we're all making this harmonious sort of living situation.
Absolutely. And we've had to shift people. We're blessed that we have multiple homes. So if some personalities don't click, we can normally shift somebody over to another place. And if we shift you to two or three homes and you're kind of consistently the problem, then we talk with that person about, hey, maybe our home isn't a fit for you. So
You mentioned zoning earlier and how people sort of find that intimidating and they think that they have to, have a certain licensure or maybe they need to have a certain zone that they can even build or turn a rent house into a group home. What has the reception been like from the community that you put these houses in place? Has it been a good reception where people will embrace it or do they know it's there?
Well, for me, I've always been a really big advocate of transparency. So I always go and I knock on all the neighbors' doors and I let them know what's going on, what we have coming in. I give them my personal phone number. So if there are problems, you can call me. What I do express though is that like these are going to be your best neighbors. They're running under rules and guidelines. They have a curfew. They're not allowed to be up playing music and drinking beer on the patio. So you're never going to have big parties here. The biggest thing that you're going to have is you're going to have a congregation of people potentially smoking out on their own patio or doing things like that. But like they're not loud and boisterous. They're not working on cars out front. They're not doing all the things that regular tenants or even homeowners would normally do. They're kind of on their best behavior because they want to be there. And they're also getting funded to be there. So they have to follow the rules for two reasons. One, we have the ability to remove people from our homes, unlike a regular tenant. And two, they're funded by somewhere, and that funding is depending on them following the rules and things as well.
So, I mean, you're being transparent with your community, but they've been pretty receptive.
Not always.
Right.
I've definitely had people that really pushed back hard, and then you're opening a flop house in my neighborhood. But ultimately, over time, none of them have kept that up. They've all kind of succeeded and been like, you know what, you're right. They're really good neighbors. It's like because I don't get phone calls from them, so and they get my personal cell phone number. My number's not hard to find. I put it everywhere. So
Yeah, I think it's pretty a common, reaction. I think whenever you're living in your community, then all of a sudden you realize down the street there's this house of people that if you're not familiar with recovery or how it works or the people that are in it, like you only have those touchstones, like I was talking about earlier, and so you immediately have when Jim shows up at your door and say, "Hey, a few doors down, we've got a house full of guys, and they're good guys, but they're in recovery. You're not going to have any problem with them." But I'm sure that for that neighbor, they have a mental image. There's an avatar that comes to
they
mind. You
do.
know what I mean of what it is, and it might be that smoking, drinking, working on the car in your front yard type of guy, whatever it is. You know what I mean, and but I think over time, and I've spoken to a lot of people that have opened to group homes and houses that are sober centers, right? Um, and a lot of times it does work out in the community. It has to be a certain type of community. I've experienced or learned over time is that there's a lot of resistance in the beginning, which I mean, I'm preaching to the choir right here, but just trying to educate our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of resistance at first, because they have that avatar in mind. But over time, with consistency and seeing the actions and seeing what's coming out of there, and they're sort of educated just by living in the neighborhood, or they just forget it's there in the first place, which is a good sign in itself because they're like, oh, you know what? It wasn't all those things I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
So we have there's a specific instance in Little Rock that I'm thinking of as you're talking about this, and that's why I'm asking about like zoning and all of that. There was a house that's been there for 2 or 3 years. It was a sober living home for women, but it was in a pretty nice, like upscale sort of neighborhood where a lot of the doctors and things like that live in, right? So it was great. They did the same thing. They did the transparency. They went knocking on doors and they told people, hey, that we're opening this sober living home for women. And these people are in recovery. They're not going to be a problem. And it wasn't a problem for 2 years until just recently when there were a couple of neighbors that were just adamantly against it. And even the owners of the house were like, hey, let me just come in and educate you. Let's talk. Let's go. And so they brought it up to um, the city council and tried to get them shut down, basically is what they're trying to do right now. And there's a law in Arkansas that you are legally not supposed to live with 3 or more people who are not family members. Like that is not allowed without a certain type of license.
You know what? That can become a problem for people. I just dealt with this with one of my guys out of Texas, and the biggest thing is there's federal case law on this. Oxford House really paved a way for this for a lot of people. If you don't know what Oxford houses are, they're recovery houses, and it's just they're a very structured national thing. So they're all over the country. But like what I ended up doing was sending quite a bit of this case law to my guy because the a code enforcement came around and said, you're not allowed to use this property like this, and just gave him all of these different things. You have too many people that are non-family members. When he went back to him with all of the case law and the documentation that actually states that people that are drug dependent are actually considered disabled. So you're also dealing with ADA. That those rules are not held against people in these types of programs. Because I have the same thing in my area. You're not allowed to have more than, I think, 4 people that aren't family members live in a home. But once you hit them with all of the paperwork and all of these things, and they recognize that they're dealing with a protected class, they're dealing with something that actually has had case law that's went to federal court and has won every time so far, they almost always back off. Within 2 weeks, my guy out of Texas we're sorry we made a mistake. Enjoy running your recovery home. So, um, it, yeah. And a couple of these results too, not mine specifically, but just some of these case law ones, the cities actually had to pay for damages for violating the rights of the people in those homes. So, and I'm not trying to act like I'm an attorney in every area because everybody has their own laws, but I would be shocked if that would hold up in court because there is enough case law proving that you are allowed to run these pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's good. I mean, great that it seems like there's policies that are still clinging from the past that a lot of people can bring as, this is why we shouldn't have this, but there are lots of policies. And like you said, doing your research and actually having an attorney that knows what they're doing is helpful as well. But yeah, I never knew that they were a protected class and the ADA compliance and all that stuff was part of it. That's very, very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah. So besides, other than Washington, if somebody is listening to this and they're like, wow, that's pretty incredible. I never thought about doing this with real estate. It's beneficial. It's helping people, but it's also, something that I could, make a living at. And, you're not fighting with 5 million other real estate agents in your area to represent the one house for that Zillow Gone Wild article. What do you say to that? Should people consider opening these types of homes? Would you recommend it? And is there like a huge learning curve for this?
I 100% recommend it. I more than recommend it. I actually help people do it. Um, I'm going to give my quick shameless plug. I did recently
For
write a book
sure.
that's on Amazon, and I do offer a coaching program, Group Home Accelerator. The book is called Group Home Accelerator on Amazon. But with that, if you go to my site, you can click on and schedule a time to talk with me. And I love to get on the phone with people, kind of see what they're looking to do, talk to them about their area, give them some actionable steps to go away with to see if this would work in their area, and then come back and we can set a plan up, and either they can coach with me or they can just do it on their own. But you will leave that conversation with some actionable items that will actually show you, will this work in my area? And if it does, will it help? Who would my niche be? Do I help men? Do I help women? Do I help, people with children? Is recovery not even an option? Should I look at doing elderly care? So I can kind of guide them in that direction. And that's all free. I love to have those calls with people because my mission in life is to help more people open these homes. I love what I'm doing, but I'm going to cap at some point. Plus, I just, my legacy is going to be left through what I help build in this recovery world because I don't have children. So my legacy is not going to be carried on by my bloodline. It's going to be carried on by the actions that I take. And this is the biggest one I'm pushing for in life right now, is to help more people open these because we need them everywhere.
Well, that is a fantastic resource, and like it's amazing work that you're doing. You're definitely a champion for 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 recovery, but also you're a champion for people that are trying to make a living at this and also do some good. So it's amazing that you found this. This is a pretty eye-opening I guess opportunity that you found and you've excelled at, and now you're helping other people do the same thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so your book's on Amazon, and is it where else can people go to find you?
Uh, I'm on Facebook. Either my name or Group Home Accelerator. I'm fairly easy to find. I'm starting to put more stuff out there. So
Fantastic. I'm going to ask you a question that I always ask every guest at the end of the show. So, with all of your given experience, especially professionally, obviously you're doing this, but you mentioned earlier in your earlier life, your personal life of growing up, and you were around to addiction, and I'm very familiar with that myself. We had that conversation before we started about how my dad was an alcoholic, but when I was growing up, it was just like I knew that people weren't living the same type of life that we were, but it was normal for us. You know what I mean? But it wasn't that different. It was just survival at that point, for my parents. Um,
yeah,
and I know that there's different types, and so whenever you have a parent that's in addiction, it can be the fun, crazy kind where there are no rules, or it can be the very abusive kind. And that's what I have, is the abusive kind. But it was sort of survival, and I didn't really think of him as being an addict until I started actually doing this podcast. And in my 30s, I was making all these revelations about the way that we lived and grew up. But taken from all your professional experience and your personal experience, what do you think is a long-term solution for maybe people that are trying to find a way to help people in need that are like in recovery?
wow. I mean, first and foremost, the easiest one is if you know people in recovery. It's just being that supportive person for them. But really, these homes are one of the biggest things that I see that really help and make an impact because it gives people a place to be for a reasonable price, and it gives them the right environment to foster this. And you don't have to be a rich real estate investor to be able to do this because you can actually rent a property and utilize them for this. And I help people do that all the time. You just, once again, it's transparency. You don't rent a house and say, I'm moving in it and then make it a sober living home, because most of the time, if you talk with an investor and you find the right people, I have someone that's about 2 miles down the road from me, and I helped her get into a rental. And the person who rented it to her has now bought 2 more homes for her to be able to do this in because he loves it. It's a great model for him. It's the most hands-off rental he's ever had because she deals with everything. And she's growing her business and now has 3 recovery homes that are operating. So you'd be shocked how much you can do with minimal resources. So
That's
I'm
amazing.
hoping I kind of answered that, but like, it's just,
No, you definitely
I
did.
push on
You've got my
often
wheels
because,
turning too, because I'm like, man,
well,
this is incredible. It's very
because
very
my
inspiring.
my for-profit company that I have is called Shelton Housing First, And it's one of the big initiatives that I really push, because housing is important. And right now it's become so unaffordable in so many areas. So I mean, you get to be blessed enough when you do this, that not only do I provide a sober, beautiful place for people to be, I also give them affordable housing. I've had people that have been in my homes for 3 years now because they've stayed sober. And then I have move up homes. So like, initially you'll come in and you'll be roommating with somebody, and then as you progress down your path of recovery, I have other homes that you can move out to and get a solo room and things like that. And it's just, I have houses of full people that pay for themselves, that all have jobs. It's just a nice affordable living place for them to be in, that actually supports their sobriety. So it becomes a little less, I don't want to call it clinical, because our homes are clinical, but it is a little different when you have a roommate in
Exactly.
your room. So
Yeah. No, for sure. And it definitely answers that question of, what is the biggest need, for people that are in recovery. I've asked plenty of, directors of different programs across the country and people with lived experience, like, what is that biggest need whenever somebody's going into recovery? And it's always, I always get two answers of, shelter and transportation, because without those two, it's hard to get a job. It's hard to go and restore your life. And like, shelter needs to be somewhere safe. It needs to be an environment to where you can actually grow in. So it makes complete sense that this works. I mean, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, right? So you need that. That's the building block of what everything else is built on. Those social relationships and self-actualization. It all comes from being able to have a safe home environment to where you can both recover, but also build a life for yourself, and whatever you want is different.
absolutely. And with that, I agree with you on transportation. It is one of the things that I really promote to people too. I have nothing, none of my homes are not, let me rephrase that. All of my homes are walkable to all of the major things around us.
Fantastic.
I'm within blocks of bus stops that will take you far away. You can take a bus. We're about 90 miles away from Seattle. You can jump on a free bus and go to Seattle and back every day if you needed to.
Nice.
Granted, that doesn't completely solve that, but it makes it a lot easier than putting some rural homes out there. And now you're 12 miles outside of town and you don't
Right.
have a car. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep, for sure. That's what we deal with a lot here in Arkansas, because it's mostly, I think we're, 90 something percent rural territory. And so, yeah, it's kind of hard to get emergency rooms and transportation for people in this area.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, Jim, I'm glad to have met you and excited to know what you're doing here, and happy to push this out, and hopefully this message reaches the people that need to hear it, and start receiving more people that want to open these homes. Like, you got me excited about it. I'm like, maybe I should look into this. And so, I really appreciate this. And so you may hear from me in the future, but, yeah, yeah, thank you just for sharing your expertise. And thank you for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find us on all of your podcast platforms, from iHeart to Spotify to Amazon Music, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast. If you're listening to this as an audio podcast, you can find us on YouTube. Search for Longterm, a podcast on recovery. The biggest ask here is, of course, we love it when you subscribe. We love when you comment and like the videos. But the main thing is, we want to make sure that these messages are reaching the people that need to hear it. So the best thing that you can do to help us grow this message and to help us grow the show itself is to share this with someone that could bear to listen to what Jim just shared here today. Like, that's an incredible opportunity that I've never heard anybody else talk about. And we've done dozens and dozens of interviews and spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs and these recovery homes. This is an incredible opportunity. So if you know somebody that could listen to this and it could potentially change something in their life, share this episode with them. The worst that can happen is they won't listen to it. The best thing that can happen is that it saves their life. And in this case, it could save several people's lives. And so that's incredible. Jim Boad, thank you so much again for being on the show. And we'll put all your links in the show notes. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thanks. All right.